They erased the human colony without a sound, no broadcasts, no demands, just death by engineered silence. The Galactic Council expected Earth to grieve quietly, maybe negotiate. Instead, they got orbital rings made of bone dust, a one-man siege on their Senate moon, and a war that never needed weapons to be won. Welcome to the story of how humanity broke the galaxy with memory, vengeance, and a message burned into the stars: you don't get to erase us. The message arrived buried in static, 3 seconds of distorted transmission intercepted on Earth's dark side quantum array. Analysts decrypted less than half of it. But the screams came through clear. They always did. No warning. No declaration. One moment Nix's hold was a thriving human frontier, population 6.2 million. The next, it went dark. The Council's official record blamed a planetary fungal collapse. Earth's satellites caught no military movement, no orbital disturbance. Just silence. And a colony full of corpses. Deep beneath the Antarctic cradle, a single name was pulled from cryostorage logs: Commander Rourke Vasker. Unthawed after 18 years, still battle-scarred from Earth's last interstellar conflict, he didn't speak as his old armor was sealed around his frame. He only nodded once when the mission dossier was fed into his neural jack. Inside, the file was short. Target: Galactic Council. High criminal obfuscation. Status: civilian massacre confirmed. Biological signature indicates type 4 virulent phage. Response level: obelisk. The general at briefing, one of Earth's few remaining war veterans, kept his hands behind his back. This wasn't a war, Commander. It was sterilization. Silent. Surgical. They wanted us to flinch and keep smiling. Rourke's eyes remained fixed on the wall, reading the projected statistics from Nix's hold: infant mortality spike, neural collapse, atmospheric contamination. No survivors. They didn't just kill our people, he said finally. They erased their names. No one replied. Then we give them a name they can't erase. 3 hours later, Earth's Defense Command launched 5 ghost ships. No warheads. No soldiers. Just memory. On board each pod, Rourke encoded the final moments of Nix. Distorted, real-time footage retrieved from drone cams and body-rigged medical suits. Children coughing blood, mothers trying to seal rooms that couldn't filter nanomist, a father screaming into the void as his comms refused to connect. One message played at the end of every clip, a young boy whispering from under a blanket, unaware he was already dying. Will Earth come? Rourke added nothing. Let the aliens answer that. The ghost ships were designed for one thing: arrive without warning and break the mind. They were folded through time using a tech the Council believed Earth dismantled: faster than light without heat's signature. Arrival time on Council Prime, 17 seconds after launch detection. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even an act of war. It was grief sharpened into psychological assault. Rourke stood in orbit above Luna, watching the pod signatures disappear from Earth's grid. They'll never find the source. His adjutant muttered beside him, the younger soldier wide-eyed. They'll think it came from inside. No, Rourke said. They'll think they were never safe to begin with. He didn't wait for the retaliation. Didn't care. Operation Obelisk was only part 1. He suited up and entered the fold gate alone. The rest of Earth prepared for counterstrikes. Rourke prepared to write a ghost into history. In the high chambers of the Galactic Council, chaos erupted less than an hour later. The first ghost ship breached orbit over Oklavar, the capital world of the insected Vrel. It didn't broadcast, it injected. Every broadcast channel, every retinal implant, every shipboard AI was overwritten with the archive from Nix. Billions watched human death play in brutal, unfiltered clarity. No score. No narrative. Just raw, dying memory. Blood-choking air vents. Children trembling in sealed bunkers. A girl drawing stars on a wall as her skin blistered. Then the screen went dark. The Council logo returned. And hovering above their skies, frozen in orbit, a glowing dust ring began to coalesce, forming the shape of a human child holding out a hand. By the time the Council scrambled fleets, The ghost ship had already disintegrated, scattering irradiated dust, carbon bonded with calcium and isotope markers from human DNA. The dust was Nyx's dead. Rourke hadn't sent a weapon. He had sent funeral ashes. Council Prime issued lockdown orders. Diplomats from 50 systems demanded immediate retaliation. But retaliation against what? There was no traceable energy signature. No fleet movement from Earth. No threats issued. Only silence, the kind that smelled like a loaded gun pointed from the dark. That was when Rourke arrived. Council Prime was fortified by 12 defense moons, 24 destroyers, and a planetary field mesh engineered to collapse any incoming signal within microseconds. Fold space technology was outlawed by mutual treaty. Rourke didn't care about treaties. He unfolded inside the ventilation shaft of the primary Senate building, 26 levels beneath the surface, above the broadcast nexus. He came with no squad. No backup. No extraction. Only a single stasis grenade and a virus-laced cortical injector designed to root itself into the higher thought centers of non-human species. The guards died fast. One of them, a Thoracian brute, tried to scream a warning. Rourke silenced him with a short blade made of polished Nyxian obsidian. Then he walked into the Senate broadcast floor, mid-session. All 72 alien representatives froze in confusion. He could see it in their twitching mandibles, shifting scales, and glowing tendrils. Not fear, not yet. Just the disbelief that a human was standing in their inner sanctum. He activated his armor's speaker. "I'm Commander Rourke Vasker of Earth," he said. "You murdered 6 million of us in silence. So I brought their screams." One of the senators, a spiraling neurocloud being from Thalvier sector, levitated from its podium, shrieking through psionic wavelengths. "You dare invade this council with threats?" "I brought no threat," Rourke said. He rolled the stasis grenade into the center of the chamber. "Only remembrance." The device detonated, a 0-point time lock. In an instant, every senator was frozen in mid-thought. Time fractured around them. Rourke walked slowly between them, whispering the same sentence to each. "We heard the boy ask if Earth would come." He placed the cortical injectors one by one. When the stasis collapsed, they would all relive the final 90 seconds of Nyx's extinction, again and again, until their minds broke or begged for mercy. Rourke walked out. No alarms sounded. No ships fired. The war wasn't coming. It had already ended. The ghost ships did not roar. They did not pierce the void with fire or shockwaves. They folded into existence like bad memories, tearing through the seams of space with a whisper, arriving 17 seconds after Council sensors first detected the disruption. 5 capital worlds. 5 pods. No weapons. No warnings. The first to hit was Euler 9, homeworld of the Brelex Consortium. At 0300 planetary time, every sky-facing screen, comms array, and mental uplink was overridden by the feed, a child coughing blood against a rusted bulkhead, her lungs filling with fluid while she sank to herself. The sound was soft. Deliberate. Designed to haunt. Then the signal cut to black. The pod didn't explode. It released a fine, glimmering ash into orbit, fragments of Nyx's hold civilians, their bones vaporized and compacted with radiation markers, programmed to spell out a single phrase when viewed from low orbit. "We remember." On Elta Prime, the feed showed a schoolteacher trying to force a jammed door open, dragging 2 children by their collars. Her eyes were already blind from phage mist. She was shouting a name. Again and again. The name never resolved. 1 pod per world. Each message personal. Each curated from the deaths of strangers who should have mattered more. On Vrex's V, a military governor demanded the feed be cut. Their AI refused. The ghost ship had injected itself into system-level infrastructure, unremovable, a viral memorial. "This is not war," the governor roared. "This is grief weaponized." He was right. On the 7th Council world, though no ghost ship arrived, a ripple surged through their communications lattice, a second signal. This one was live. The image that came through was Commander Rourke Vasker, seated in a burn-scarred cockpit, eyes hollow, his voice cold and steady. "Earth didn't authorize war," he said. "Earth authorized memory." He reached off-screen and pulled a cord. Behind him, a hatch hissed open, revealing a sealed cylinder filled with Nixian dust. He held it up in silence. "This is what you made of our future. So we made it into your reflection." He dropped it into space. The dust trailed behind the ship like a comet's tail. The signal cut. Back on Earth, satellite arrays monitored Council activity. 27 armadas mobilized. Hundreds of subfactions held emergency sessions. Dozens of alien dignitaries issued statements, some condemning the act, others calling for understanding. None of them understood. The ghost ships weren't meant to destroy. They were meant to demonstrate. You couldn't kill humans quietly. On the edge of the Erethan Nebula, a council-aligned war thinker named Arjul Nvek offered a theory. Humanity has transcended the conventional equation of violence. They do not seek conquest. They impose trauma. Meanwhile, on the fringes of diplomatic space, colonies once ignored, human outposts buried in dust and distance, began raising black banners etched with red stars. Old Earth war flags. Signals of unity. The Council declared a security summit. All 72 species met on the Senate moon of Veltac Prime. They issued a formal demand: surrender the architect of this act. Surrender Rourke Vasker for trial. No reply. Instead, a new burst hit their networks. Rourke again. This time walking through a dead hall. Behind him, images flickered, not of Nyx, but of other colonies. Other dead. The forgotten debris of Galactic pacification campaigns. "You created a graveyard of whispers," he said. "We turned it into a chorus." The Council tried to jam the signal. It didn't matter. By then, half their systems had already downloaded the transmission from anonymous backchannels. It couldn't be undone. Some among the Council, like the Krath Dominion, prepared for a second wave. They assumed a fleet would follow. Weapons. Invasions. They waited. Nothing came. And the silence began to feel louder. On Earth, the command core went dark. No transmissions. No statements. The ghost ships were the only reply they would offer. One Council world, Dralta Minor, launched a retaliatory strike at a nearby human mining outpost. The strike failed. Not because the humans fought back. Because the outpost had been evacuated a week before. In its place, a single satellite. It transmitted one phrase in a loop. "We predicted your wrath. We measured your instincts." Then the outpost self-destructed, forming another ash ring. The ash spelled, "Control is an illusion." Panic took root. Empires built on the assumption of superiority began questioning it. Why no counter-invasion? Why no declaration? What was the plan? The Council, for the first time in centuries, was no longer steering the narrative. They were reacting to it. The Brelex attempted negotiations. They contacted Earth's old diplomatic channel, dormant for 40 years. The reply was a data pulse. Inside, a map of every known Council sterilization operation, every world they cleansed, under different names. Every silence they called justice. Humanity had not just survived the latest one. They had archived the rest. They had always been listening. In the private chambers of Veltac Prime, the higher species debated deploying cultural dampeners, mimetic suppression fields. All tools of soft annihilation. But nothing worked on ghosts. Because Earth hadn't launched a military. It had launched a reckoning. And across the galaxy, for the first time in history, the question wasn't, "How do we beat them?" It was, "What if they've already won, and we just haven't realized it yet?" Because humans didn't bring war. They brought memory sharpened into a blade. And everyone who watched those skies now carried a cut. The air on Veltac Prime's surface was thin, tainted with a chemical trace Rourke recognized, the scent of synthesized fear. Artificially filtered atmosphere, ionized to stimulate heightened caution. A subtle tool of diplomacy. Psychological warfare posing as courtesy. He adjusted his armor's internal pressure, fingers gliding over the neural interface embedded into his forearm. No weapons showed. None were needed. He was the weapon now. The ghost ships had made that clear. Below him, on the platform's edge, stretched the Council Senate's broadcast chamber, a hemispherical vault of polished obsidian, glowing faintly with the neural signatures of 72 ruling species. Each representative arrived accompanied by guards and psychic interpreters. No one expected conflict. But everyone expected dominance. Rourke's arrival wouldn't be diplomatic. He moved unseen through the access shaft under the chamber, bypassing 30 layers of motion detection and biolock checkpoints. Earth's intelligence had fed him the building's schematics 6 years ago. Not in preparation for this strike, but because the Council once dared suggest Earth install a cooperative liaison here. Plant roots in their garden, Earth's AI strategist had advised. One day, they'll wonder why the flowers bleed. He breached the Senate's inner core 5 minutes before the next cycle. Cloaking tech disabled. No theatrics. They needed to see him clearly. Remember him clearly. 2 guards, crystalline-skinned ossuary, telepathic and fast, turned toward him with almost perfect synchronicity. Rourke didn't flinch. He stepped forward, flicked his wrist, and the suit's pulse disruptor fired. Both collapsed in spasms, not dead, just erased for 10 minutes. He walked past them into the light. The chamber hushed. Thousands of eyes, tentacles, antennae, and sensor arrays locked onto him. The central sphere above flickered, cameras focusing. Rourke didn't speak yet. Senator Vornax of the Cell Dominion floated from his plinth, bioplasma humming beneath his translucent skin. This is not your world, Terran. You are trespassing on Council core ground. Rourke smiled faintly. You trespassed on ours first. The chamber erupted in language, vocal, telepathic, encoded. An avalanche of questions, warnings, threats. He raised his hand, slow and deliberate. It wasn't a gesture of peace. It was a countdown. 6 million humans died on Nyx's hold, he said. No declaration. No trial. Just decay hidden in wind and mist. Some senators looked away. Others stared blankly. We sent no warships, Rourke continued. We sent truth. And still you buried it. Vornax hissed. You're here to make demands? Rourke tilted his head. No. I'm here to leave something behind. He reached into the satchel on his back and pulled out a small sphere, silver and cold, a stasis grenade. The same tech the Council banned. The same tech they thought only they had mastered. Don't move, Rourke said, pressing his thumb to the trigger. They moved anyway. He dropped it. Time shattered. The grenade exploded in silence, emitting a rippling distortion. Every representative froze in place, mid-sentence, mid-breath, mid-thought. Even the psychics couldn't resist. The chamber stood still, caught in a ghostly tableau of panic and power. Rourke walked among them, each step echoing like a funeral march. He approached Senator Vornax, paused, then pulled a thin needle-like device from his belt, an injector designed to interface with neural networks. He embedded it behind the cell's primary lobe, whispering as he worked. This will loop Nyx's last breath into your waking mind. You'll taste their air. Hear their lungs collapse. He moved from delegate to delegate, repeating the process. 100 injectors. 100 nightmares carefully planted. Each one personalized, selected from Earth's archive of the dead. Not simulations. Recordings. Rourke passed the central plinth, where the High Arbitrator of the Council, a tri-brained leviathan from the Amber cluster, sat suspended in bioplasmic gel. He leaned in close. You believed we forgot. That's the flaw in your empires. You erase what you fear. He embedded the final injector behind the arbitrator's largest eye. You never feared us. But you will remember us. With his mission complete, he walked to the center of the chamber. Time was almost up. The stasis would collapse in 12 seconds. He tapped his forearm. His armor broadcast one final signal, to the chamber, to the Council's entire homeworld, and to every system tuned into the Senate feed. The final recorded words of Nix's Hold's youngest survivor. "I think they're coming. I think Earth heard us." Then silence. Then darkness. Then the stasis shattered. Every senator screamed. Not out loud. Internally. Neural systems buckled as the injectors activated. In their minds, Nix's death unfolded in slow motion. Again and again. Days would pass before they could differentiate reality from the memory Earth gave them. Rourke didn't wait. He was already gone. Folded out through a collapsing gravity thread, his body disassembled into molecular lace, then reformed 100 million kilometers away, aboard the stealth ship Verdict. His adjutant was waiting. Pale. Shaken. "They saw everything," she whispered. "We confirmed at least 36 core worlds were watching live." "Good. They'll retaliate." Rourke peeled off his gloves. "No, they won't." The woman blinked. "Why?" "Because now they've seen what it feels like," he said. "And they don't want to feel it again." Below them, the Senate moon's surface was in chaos. Broadcasts were cut. Ships scrambled. But Earth's message had already been carved deep into their minds, not through words, or bombs, or declarations. Through memory. Through grief. And that was the brilliance of the strike. You can argue with soldiers. But no one argues with ghosts. Rourke Vasker's disappearance sent the Council spiraling. They had footage, grainy, chaotic, real, of a single human standing before the most powerful chamber in the galaxy, freezing the minds of 72 alien leaders, and infecting them with memory. Not code. Not propaganda. Pure, emotional recall. The images they saw weren't synthetic. They were real screams, real faces, real deaths, spliced directly into the neural tissue of every council delegate. There was no off switch. No firewall. Each of them now dreamed in human agony. Some began to crack. On the third day, Senator Vornax of the Cell Dominion tore out his own ocular stalks, screaming for silence. On the sixth, 4 of the crystalline ossuary collapsed into comas after reliving a girl's final gasps inside a sealed nursery on Nix's Hold. They called it the screaming sleep. The High Arbitrator stopped speaking altogether. Every attempt at reactivation was met with a single repeated phrase in a child's voice. "Earth heard us." In less than a week, half the council had gone dark. The other half panicked. The Krayth fleet mobilized across 6 systems, lining their borders with gravity mines and collapse beacons. Entire planetary populations were evacuated from zones near human trade routes. Messages were sent, desperate, probing, requesting Earth's demands, asking for terms. There was no reply. Earth's silence now sounded like a war drum. Council warthinkers ran simulations. What if Earth's ghost ships were the beginning? What if the memory implants had secondary triggers? What if this wasn't just a strike but a test run? One scenario, flagged by an AI advisory, disturbed even the most war-hardened species. What if Earth didn't intend to win? What if they'd already won, and no one had realized it yet? Because nothing had moved. No fleets had launched. No ships left Earth. No missiles. No armies. But the map had changed. Council-aligned worlds began defecting, not from ideology, but fear. Local governors refused to enforce council directives. Entire sectors started flying a new flag, a black field with a single red glyph, the symbol of Nix's Hold. That colony was dead, but its memory had become a banner. And in the cracks of the Empire, whispers grew louder. "They didn't fire a shot. They made us remember. They rewrote the war." Some said Rourke Vasker had ascended, that he was no longer a man but a code running wild through council systems, ghosting past firewalls and whispering guilt into the minds of soldiers. Some said he'd been captured. Others said he had never existed at all, that Earth had crafted a myth so precise it became real by force of belief. But on a cold mining moon named Oris III, a miracle happened. An old freighter, battered and heat-scarred, docked without clearance. The crew that approached found no cargo, no weapons. Just one man standing at the ramp, wearing worn black armor and a nameplate that read Vasker. He looked them over with tired eyes. I need a link to Earth. They gave it. When the message reached the Terran Directorate, it contained only coordinates and 2 words. Phase complete. The next day, Earth's solar grid went offline for 7 seconds. When it came back, nothing had changed on the surface. But every defense satellite reoriented slightly. Just a few degrees. As if aligning with a new geometry. And then, stillness. No fleets launched. No broadcast followed. Earth simply watched. Meanwhile, the Council Senate tried to regroup. A temporary high committee was formed, 9 species, all psychologically stable, all untouched by the screaming sleep. They ordered a public declaration of strength. A unified message. But the message didn't matter. The perception had shifted. Before the ghost ships, humanity was dismissed. Savage. Unpredictable. Now they were worse. They were deliberate. For every declaration the Council broadcast, 3 colonies dropped Council allegiance. For every call to war, a Council-adjacent world declared neutrality. It wasn't a rebellion. It was erosion. It wasn't organized. It was inevitable. Then came the final blow. On the 6th week, a shuttle from the Zarth Confederacy, longtime allies of the Council, approached Earth's outer defenses unarmed. Aboard were 10 representatives, each from species that once voted to sterilize Nyx's hold. They broadcast one signal, openly. We wish to speak. Earth responded with silence. But a door opened. Only one of the 10 returned. He said nothing. Only handed over a data chip. On it, a full, unaltered Council archive of all sanctioned, cleansing operations, in the last 500 years. Entire lists of colonies erased under legal codes. Entire planets forgotten, wiped under names like Ecological Reset, or Biointegrity Protocol. It wasn't a gift. It was a confession. The Council tried to suppress it. But the data leaked anyway. Within days it was everywhere, from merchant ships to mercenary channels to pirate dens and planetary universities. Every corner of the galaxy now knew how many had been erased. And who had erased them. The galaxy turned. Earth never asked for allies. But now it had something better. Witnesses. Because Rourke's mission hadn't been vengeance. It had been truth. And truth spreads. Even when whispered by ghosts. A gentle wind swept through Earth's hall of silence, rustling the glass-etched names of the dead as if they still breathed. The memorial's black monolith stood 20 stories high, embedded with millions of microscopic particles, dust from Nyx's hold. The visitors didn't speak here. No one ever did. High Marshal Trenvas stood before the monument alone, hands behind his back, eyes scanning the names he once knew only as numbers. He had authorized Operation Obelisk. Signed it with blood-stained gloves. But even now, weeks later, he didn't understand how it had ended without a war. Footsteps approached behind him, measured, deliberate. Not a soldier's march. A ghost's return. I thought you were dead, Voss muttered. I am, Rourke said. He stepped beside the marshal, armor dulled from travel, eyes older than before. No medals. No weapons. Just the quiet weight of a man who had walked into the center of a galaxy and returned with nothing but echoes. You sent the chip, Voss said. Rourke didn't answer immediately. He placed a small object on the base of the monument, a fragment of Council crystal, cracked through the center. The same type used to broadcast planetary executions. They gave it to me when they asked for forgiveness, he said. But I didn't bring forgiveness. Just light. Voss turned toward him. You crippled an empire without raising a fleet. I didn't cripple it, Rourke replied. I reminded it. The galaxy was not at war. But it would never be the same. The archive leak had detonated across systems like a silent nova. Over 400 planetary corrections, traced back to Council law. Genocide packaged in policy. Erasure masquerading as order. And now, thanks to Earth, everyone knew. No shots. No threats. Just memory, Voss said, almost in disbelief. Truth is the sharpest weapon, Rourke replied. And regret is the deepest wound. Behind them, more visitors had begun to gather, but kept their distance. Some were survivors. Others were not born yet when Nix's hold fell. One young boy clutched a model starship marked with Earth's sigil. He looked up at the two men and waved. Rourke didn't wave back. What happens now? Voss asked. Now? Rourke smiled faintly. Now they change their laws, rewrite their history, purge their conscience. All to forget the memory we left inside them. But they'll never forget. That's the point. The Council, broken and scattered, had issued a new charter 3 nights ago, the Terran Clause. It forbade interference in human systems, prohibited cultural integration, and required unanimous consent before engaging with Terran-aligned colonies. The clause had no negotiation. It was accepted by every remaining faction in under an hour. Not from fear. From survival. Rourke reached into his coat and pulled out a data chip. Keep it, he said. It's everything. The Council's internal records. Votes. Names. Signatures. Voss hesitated. What if we use it? You won't, Rourke said. That would be conquest. We don't conquer. We endure. The High Marshal nodded. Earth had changed. Not into an empire, not into a dominator, but into a presence. An orbiting, unmoving fact of the galaxy. Something to avoid. Something to respect. Something too painful to provoke. And yet, something others would follow. Reports were flooding in daily. Minor alien powers lifting human banners, colonies rejecting Council oversight, entire sectors adopting Earth's declaration of endurance. They fear us, Voss said softly. No, Rourke corrected. They fear what they did. We just reminded them we don't forget. A pause lingered. Rourke stared at the stars rising in the east. They blinked into view like ghosts reclaiming the sky. You think they'll strike back? Voss asked. No, Rourke said. They'll write new textbooks. Host conferences. Rename what they did until the guilt fits in their mouth like sugar. But deep down, they'll remember the ash. What about you? Rourke exhaled slowly. There's no war left in me. I was never meant to survive this story. Voss looked at him, really looked, at the cracks in the armor, the skin that hadn't fully regrown, the eyes that had seen too much. Then what do we tell the next generation? Rourke turned, placing a hand gently against the memorial stone. The etchings glowed faintly beneath his fingers, names lighting like stars across black marble. Tell them the truth. Tell them Nix's hold wasn't the beginning or the end. Just the scream that made the galaxy listen. He stepped back. And tell them that memory is a weapon. So sharpen it. Without another word, he turned and walked down the path. The crowd parted in silence. No cheers. No applause. Just stillness. As if even the planet itself held its breath while he passed. Rourke vanished into the morning fog, leaving nothing behind but a cracked crystal and a name no one would dare erase. Far above Earth, in orbit, Council satellites remained pointed away. None dared face the planet again. Because Earth had not declared victory. It had declared permanence. And for the first time in galactic history, war had not ended with a treaty. It had ended with remembrance.